A biological man has successfully breastfed an adopted child. This is a trans-identified man who says that he's a woman and was able to take a cocktail of hormone therapy in preparation to feed an adopted baby, according to this case report. Now, this report goes through what they were able to do. This person presented themselves to a doctor's office and said, I would like to breastfeed. And, I got 6 months to do it. Baby's on the way. Can you help me? And these doctors said yes. And a pediatrician then followed up with this child to see how it was thriving or not based on taking the chemicals from this person's body. Now, this here I'm about to show you is presumably not the person in question. This is another breastfeeding biological male that went viral. Now, just look at this post saying, in the end, I only breastfed my child for a few weeks. I then had to stop because I had a cancer relapse and didn't want to poison my child. Here's me on the bus on the first round, on the way to the first round of chemo, like breastfeeding for the last time. Now, I get that your last nursing session is very emotional. I've done that 3 times. What they're saying is that presumably this person has been on heavy duty pharmaceuticals to make the male ducts produce milk. And then that person's body developed cancer or relapsed into cancer. And so that's why they stopped breastfeeding. They weren't worried that maybe whatever brought back the cancer was a toxin that could hurt the baby, right? That's not a concern. Nobody here's worried about that, David?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, saying that they didn't want to give them the cancer treatment drugs, but is the whatever properties or chemicals they had to put into this person to produce milk, is it really milk? You know what I mean? It's are the nutrients there? It seems like those are going to be just as bad of chemicals potentially as the cancer drugs.
We're going to get to that, to whatever it is that's coming out of the male ducts, because there is some comment on that and the fact that it's not really tested. We don't really know. But a lot of these cross-sex hormones have been associated with cancer. So you're not worried about being pumped full of hormones in order to turn your body into something it does not naturally look like. But you're then worried once the cancer starts because of radiation. That's not being a good parent. It's not. What these men are doing are using something called the Newman-Goldfarb protocol. It was originally developed to help biological women who adopted or had a child via surrogacy to breastfeed. Now, here's what it entails. Here's from the UK Hospital's Infant Feeding Network saying that what this is a combination of contraceptive hormones, physical stimulation through a breast pump, and domperidone, yes, medication to mimic the hormonal changes of pregnancy and birth. Now, they say that there's little evidence related to the success or safety of the protocol. We don't know the impact of specific element or doses of the constituents milk produced. Lactation professionals report anecdotally that there is significant variability, with some people able to produce a large amount of milk and most able to produce a partial milk supply. In general, this chemical, I'm not able to say, domperidone, must be continued throughout the period of lactation, which is challenging because in the UK, it's only supposed to be used for nausea and vomiting at the lowest effective dose and for the shortest period of time due to reports of cardiac conduction side effects. So it has this known side effect, but you have to take it the whole time you're trying to produce milk if you're a biological male. But we know it's not very good for you. And again, there's no evidence around the safety or the composition of this milk. Does anyone care? Does anyone care? Now, when you donate your breast milk, which I've looked into because for my daughters especially, I had a lot of milk. One time this is probably TMI, but I'll tell the story anyway. I was going to buy a book in a children's bookstore and I went to hand over my credit card and I went plink, plink on my wrist because it was just everywhere. And the woman at the bookstore was like, what's happening here? Do we have a leak? It was me. It was just so much. Like, you can't stop it. And I realized that this is a great problem to have if you're a nursing mom. But so I looked into donating my milk, especially because my daughters would not take a bottle. Like, they would take their little fists and punch it. It was me or nothing. It didn't matter if I left the house. Nothing mattered. But you have to have your milk tested if you donate it to a milk bank for HIV, HPV, hepatitis, syphilis, tobacco, alcohol, among other things. You cannot donate milk that is not tested and give it to other babies unless you're a man, I guess. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was going to say, and the thing is, like, anything that you put in your body, doesn't matter what it is, anything you put in your body at the time you're breastfeeding goes into that milk, and in a concentrated form. So it's like the baby's getting a concentrated form of whatever that is. And so if that drug has side effects for people, it's going to have the same side effects for the baby. And it's like, do you not understand that? Like, if they're like, hey, side effects may include this, 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 and this, well, that transfers to the baby too. It's like, well, I think I could handle those side effects in order to get the feeling of breastfeeding my baby.
Yeah. Nursing moms, we're not supposed to have coffee because that could rile up your baby. Some certain foods like broccoli make your baby gassy. You're supposed to avoid all kinds of things. There's a specific, if you want to go on a contraceptive, there's a specific type of birth control pill you can be on because they don't want the hormones in the baby. I'm going to talk about that further in a second. So for biological moms, we have to be careful, and we want to, because nursing is important, but the baby is more important to biological moms. To people who are gender ideologues, the nursing is more important to validate their gender identity than the baby. And that to me is criminal. The case we're talking about today, not the person who had cancer, but this other person, it was supervised by doctors, but it wasn't even this man's baby. The man's partner, boyfriend or girlfriend, had the baby conceived, I think, with someone else. And then the trans-identified male decided to try to feed it as an exercise in womanhood. I presume because the partner may have been a biological woman who identified as male. And for those people, breastfeeding feels a little too feminine, and they just didn't want to. So again, not that they didn't try or they didn't think they could, or they were worried about the hormones on the baby, but they didn't want to because it hurt their ideology. Okay. We may not be talking about the world's best parents here. So they're calling this an adopted child of the biological male who decided to breastfeed. Now, here's what the case report said, that this person was on cross-sex hormones for a total of 6 years. Here is all of the cocktails that they were taking. Look at estriadol. We're going to get back to that for a second. Apart from that, they said no main risk factors except, below. They said they had laparoscopic cholecystectomy.
Cholecystectomy.
Thank you.
Cholecystectomy. Yes.
That is a minimally invasive surgical procedure used for a diseased gallbladder. So we're not talking about an otherwise healthy person. This otherwise they were fine. But they were on this major cocktail of cross-sex hormones to turn their body into something else, and had a diseased gallbladder. But otherwise, go ahead. Let's see if you can feed a newborn baby. Again, the estradiol that we're talking about that they were taking to become a woman is an estrogen steroid. Again, if you have a baby and you're nursing, and you want to go on the birth control pill because you're not ready to have another baby, they don't put you on a pill that has estrogen. You have to go on a pill without estrogen. It's called progesterone only because they don't want you to pass that to the baby, and because estrogen actually reduces milk supply. And so you're messing with yourself, right? They do say that they lowered this person's estradiol in advance in 2 weeks before the baby came, so that it wouldn't mess. Here's what they said. They went to a low dose patch of estradiol, and progesterone was lowered as well. And then the baby was born, 6 pounds, 13 ounces. And the patient breastfed exclusively for 6 weeks. That means that baby was not getting anything else. So this gives me a lot of anxiety as someone who knows that babies need to eat a lot in the first 6 weeks. And they were depending on a biological male. They did not supplement. During that time, the pediatrician reported that the child's growth, feeding, and bowel habits were developmentally appropriate. And then at 6 weeks, they began to give the baby formula. Thank goodness.
I have a question too that I don't know that they're like, are they only talking about the medications that were taken specifically for the breastfeeding and like leaving out a potential antidepressant or anxiety medication these people may have been on? Or do they, because I know a lot of those, if you're on them, you can't just get off of them and then go on other medications. You have to like wean yourself. So does the study talk about that at all? They just leave that out?
No, it's here.
Okay.
It says the medical history of this person had panic disorder, for which they were taking occasional clonazepam, and insomnia, for which they were taking zolpidem. So yes, they were taking those things up until they decided to come up and try and switch themselves into breastfeeding person. That's a good point, because yes, that was there. Now, in this case report, they point out that breastfeeding is best for baby for all of these reasons, which is true, immunological support, bonding, all of these things, and that formula-fed infants, have a higher risk of rotavirus and hospitalization for respiratory tract infection and SIDS and all of these things. So yes, that's true. But what this baby got was neither formula nor breast milk in its truest form, because breast milk is a conversation between mommy and baby. The enzymes from the baby's saliva tell your body what to make, and you respond accordingly. So it may have been getting some kind of chemical, but it's not necessarily what that baby needed. We don't know at all if this breastfed baby got any of those benefits, because we don't know anything about this type of fluid. Go ahead, David.
It's like AWA on Avatar, you connect and it's like a real connection to your baby. And it's like, if you don't have all the elements, you're not really getting that.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Now, this man had complications too, because he was on androgen blockers, which is the hormone that men take to keep the male sex hormones at bay when they want to present as a woman. They have no idea how much of that got into the baby. And according to this write-up, they don't seem to really care. Here's where they mention the androgen blockers. And they say, it has been reported to have tumorogenic potential in rats, so it can cause tumors. But according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, it's thought to be compatible with breastfeeding. Like, how do they know? Thought to be is not studied. They think maybe these androgen blockers, because what? Like, they're not sure, but they think it'd be fine. And then also they bring up the idea that domperidone, which we talked about earlier, is used only for stomach problems. Was it diarrhea or something like that? And you have to get it through Canada, because there are strict rules where this person lived. So it's a workaround. This is medical experimentation on an infant.
Yeah, otherwise, you'd have a bunch of little Luigis running around, little babies with big, thick black mustaches, probably.
I suppose, we know from research about this type of inducing lactation on a male body that this milk has never been tested. I hesitate to even call it milk. No baby can consent to being tested on like this. I don't understand how doctors are like, sure, let's see what happens. We don't know how these hormones get into breast milk and how that would do on a brand new baby, but screw it. Let's give it a try.
I'm impressed they're even referring to it as breasts and breastfeeding. I'm surprised they're not saying chest and chest feeding.
Yeah. And don't get me started on that. Right. I mean, they're breasts as much as, any prosthesis, although it seems that this person didn't have any prosthetic breasts. One of my other major concerns about this is in the mommy communities, when you have a baby and you're not able to nurse, there are women who give it their damnedest and they just can't, for whatever reason, no matter how hard they try. Those mommies put aside their need for validation as a new mommy because they know that their stress about not making milk and the risk of their baby going hungry is not worth it to the baby. So they put themselves second in order to put the baby first. That's what a real mother does. What this person did is the opposite of motherhood. You don't say, oh, this will make me feel good, and tell everybody else that I'm a real woman and it will signal something to the world. This person doing this to a baby, an unwitting baby, is not a mother or a father. It's a selfish person. And the doctors who went along with this, they should have thought of the baby first. I don't know what to say about this other than I'm horrified on behalf of the babies, and I'm horrified on behalf of moms who have nursed as much as I have, and for moms who wanted to and never could. So it makes me want to cry. David, do you have anything else to say about this?
Well, it just blows my mind that, like, you know, how much the pharmaceutical industry pushes this stuff, because they just make hella profits. Everything that these people are going through, the pharmaceutical industry is involved in the whole entire process. And so it just always leads me back to the money. And it's like, you people actually think that some of these places or some of these companies have their best interests in mind. It's like not caring about what's in that. Oh, we don't care if it's like gonna, you know, the hormones or whatever. We're not gonna look into it. It'll be fine, you know, because at the end of the day, the pharmaceutical companies are still making their money. And that's just what it feels like it's all about for me. Because if you really cared about that child, you would not put anything foreign into their body at all. You would want the purest form of nutrition for that baby from you know, the beginning of their life. Yeah.
And those of us who've done that, who've been so careful about what we've eaten, who've always, you know, put the baby first, who've nursed until, you know, again, and, you know, a lot of it for nursing mommies, there's evidence that nursing prevents cancer, breast cancer in the mother. This again puts them in a separate category because whatever that person was doing to themselves brought back on their cancer. I'm not saying that these are a directly related result, but we do know that a lot of those cross-sex hormones have correlation with cancers. You know, again, who cares about the baby, right? The baby then becomes a prop. Helen Joyce, the author of Trans, today she posted that she wasn't even going to post the picture of the photo that I showed you in the beginning because she felt like the baby was an unwitting participant to someone's ideology and being used as a prop. And I agree with her. I showed it to you anyway for illustration of, you know, what is being out there. And I'm torn about having done so, but I did that. And we're going to call it for this segment. So let us know what you think in the chat, if this can be construed as anything other than medical experimentation on newborn babies.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.